G'day guys, what's going on? I'm currently in Guatemala, Lake Atitlan in Panajachel, in the co-working space for the hostel that I'm staying at. Thought it was time I broke my few weeks silence of literally recording no content and jump online because yesterday I had an amazing experience hiking out at a town called San Juan. We went up the Indian Nose, got to the top, and I found after the hike, I had a few of my clients reaching out asking how it went because they know that I've got this big fear of heights. And I was just sharing some cool stuff that I was applying, I guess, you know, the stuff that I teach you guys about alchemy, transformation, mindset, and all that kind of things. I found myself really having to apply it in order to get up this ginormous mountain. It took like 3 hours to get to the top. So I'm just going to break down the journey on exactly what happened and give you my few takeaways from the whole experience and, you know, whatever you guys take from it for your business, for your creative projects. Fantastic. So basically what happened, I'd heard from multiple people in the hostel and also in Antigua that when you get to Lake Atitlan, you've got to go to San Juan and you've got to go hike to the top of this place called the Indian Nose because apparently the views of the lakes are just immaculate. Okay, now they were right. They were immaculate. But everyone was saying that, hey, it's an hour hike. It's not that long. It's easy compared to a few of the volcanoes that you hike around here. So I was like, all right, cool. I've hiked a volcano before. In Antigua, that was fine. I did that. So I assumed this would be okay as well. Now, if you guys have been following me on Instagram, you'll know that hike I did, I was in like the wrong footwear and it was causing all kinds of problems, but still charged up there, covered as much distance as I could in those shoes before turning back. So going to San Juan, I didn't necessarily have different footwear. And I was kind of like, all right, I am expecting that there's going to be steps. There's going to be a better path. It's not going to be as slippery. And I'll be good. I'll be good in my Air Jordans. I had LeBrons the first time. I thought, yeah, the Air Jordans will be fine. So anyhow, I rocked up, grabbed myself a coffee at a cafe, and I asked one of the baristas, I said, in Spanish, I had it on Google Translate, so I actually can't remember exactly how to say this, but it was something along the lines of caminar Mayan face. They call it the Mayan face in San Juan. A lot of us foreigners, we call it the Indian Nose, but it's actually called the Mayan face. That's what the Guatemalans call it. And she's like, oh, yes, right? And clicked her fingers, whistled, and some tour guide literally came in, right? I just wanted some directions. I didn't necessarily want to go on a tour, but literally, you know, before I knew it, I was talking to this tour guide about getting up to the top of the Indian Nose. So I was like, okay, I can try and find the path myself and hike up, or I can get someone to take me up, probably share a little bit about the history, show me some good nature strips. Why not? So I started talking to him. I asked him how much. He said about 250 quetzal, which I don't know exactly how much it is, but I think it's about 40 USD. Not bad to get the right experience. So I thought, all right, I'll pay that. So just as I was about to pay him, I confirmed with him. I said, how hard is this hike? And he said, oh, not that difficult, 3 horas. And I'm like, 3-hour hike, shit, we must have a lot to see, but not that difficult. He kept on saying tranquilo, which means like peaceful, calm. So I'm like, whatever, all right, this is cool. So we get in the tuk-tuk, we start driving. We drive for about 10 minutes and we get to this base, right? He says we're going to need to get 3 bottles of water each. It's going to be very hot up there and we can start. So immediately when he said 3 bottles of water, I'm like, hang on a second. That's a little bit much. I understand it's 3 hours, but like how you said this was going to be a not too difficult. But anyhow, again, I'm like, I'm getting to the top of this thing. I want to see the views. So we get the bottles of water and we start. Now, the first probably 30 minutes of the hike just went. It was really, really quick. He kept saying, we're making good time. We're getting up there faster. I'm like, sweet. You know, there was steps. There was a few handrails, not perfect, but enough to like pull yourself up there. I thought if this continues the whole way, this is going to be a piece of cake. I might finish it and just be a bit sweaty. Anyhow, we get to about the 45-minute mark and we get to, I think it was checkpoint 2, like the second lookout. And he types into Google Translate something in Spanish and he just shows it to me and he presses play. And all I heard this automated voice recorder say is, pathway get difficult. Be very careful in next part of the hike. And literally, the fear of God set in because I'm like, what do you mean? Path get difficult. Be very careful, right? So I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, tranquilo, tranquilo, right? So his English wasn't great. My Spanish isn't great at all. I can just say the basics. But still, I'm like, you know, I'm 45 minutes into this thing. I can't turn back now. I've got to keep going, and I'm not going to do what I did in Antigua. Like my footwear's holding up. There's no excuse to turn back. So anyhow, like he said, the pathway did get very narrow. Very narrow. Like we started on like a nice wide footpath. We were making good time. And then all of a sudden the pathway narrowed and it started to get uneven. There were rocks. There was a lot of gravel. There were random branches like sticking across like logs. And we're getting higher up the mountains. So now's when the lessons start to come in of what I actually had to apply up there. All of a sudden, my fear of height starts kicking in. Jordan, turn back. I started remembering when I was a kid on school camp, being up high on the abseiling activities and bitching out because my fear came up and I started to get like tied around the throat and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm nauseous, can't do it. That started coming up. I'm looking up and I'm seeing that we're still got a long way to go to the top because you can see the top. You can't see where you stand, but you can see the top, like the peak. I'm like, fuck, man, it's so far away. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be fit enough. Then it's hot, right? And there's bushes everywhere. And I'm an Aussie. Like, we have snakes everywhere in those kind of environments. And I'm thinking, what if I get bitten by a snake? My skin's exposed, another big fear of mine. So all this shit is going on in my head. And I'm pushing, but I'm noticing each 5 minutes or so, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So we get to this point about 15 minutes later, and there are these massive rocks that we have to climb up. He starts pulling out rope from his bag. I didn't know he had rope, but he had rope. He's like, we need to pull ourselves up. And I'm like, what do you mean pull ourselves up? He goes, tranquilo. He starts tying, like without me even saying, yes, I agree to do this or not, he's tying the thing around the tree, making sure it's tight. He goes up first, right? Shows me how to do it. He leaps up there so quickly. And he goes, now you do. Now, the rock, I'm not saying the rock was massive, but it was a good, 2 meters, let's say. Maybe 2 meters, maybe 2.5 meters max. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I don't make this, right, I'm going to crash down on this narrow footpath and probably roll over the side of the mountain. So again, my fear of heights is kicking me in the ass. So I start pulling myself and I notice my grip is loose. It's loose, right? And I'm sweaty and I'm nervous. My feet are fucking shaking. And it occurred to me at this stage, this is where I'm going to drop the first lesson, that nobody is coming to fucking do this for me. Nobody's going to come and make my fear better. No one can take this away. So it was like, Jordan, the only way that you're going to get to the top and be safe is to own that you're fucking scared and move on anyway. Like, it's not going anywhere. I realized, like, there's going to be more of this shit. It's challenging, but the more I seem to try and release this fear, the worse my technique gets. So immediately I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I am scared, but I'm just going to focus on the job. right? And that's the principle of focus, guys. This is what I do with my clients in sessions. It's like, you don't try and relieve the negative feeling. You don't try and get rid of the negative thought. You've got to stare it in the face and just be like, all right, I know you're there. I know what you're trying to do, but I'm going this way instead. Literally, I'm going this way. It's like what I used to teach my salespeople. It's like, you can either focus on an objection as a roadblock, right? Or you can see it as just the next step in the sale. Okay, it depends. Like, what frame are you in? If you're on, like, this is going to stop the deal from going ahead, it will stop the deal from going ahead. You will start to say stuff. You will create a different sales pitch that will come out and frame that objection in the prospect's mind as a roadblock. But if you're like, man, just the next step, that's how the prospect will get it. So I'm like, all right, I'm fucking scared. I've got no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going to trust that this is going to work out. So after shaking a few times, dropping my feet back down, I just gritted my teeth and I just pulled myself up. Just pulled myself up. Horrible technique. I was grabbing onto fucking branches and, all kinds of shit as I was going up, but I got up there. Okay. And we continue. Now, what was interesting, I got really fucking confident after that one. And I'm like, man, I'm good to go. I can do this. So we had like two more rope circuits where I went up really fast. I'm like, man, I've done this. I'm really excited. I can go. So we get past these next two like rope climbs. I'm like, this is going to be easy. I'm on a high. And I'm thinking there's absolutely nothing that could derail my confidence now. Like, we're going to get to the top. It's going to be a piece of cake. I'm fucking tired, but I know like my body's fit enough to get us up the mountain. So I'm at the high. I ask him, how much more to go? And he says, 45 minutes. I go, okay, no worries. And then just as I think we're going to get more uphill, the path descends. So it goes down, right? I wasn't expecting that. It fucking descends, right? We have to go down to get to the last uphill to get to the top. And I didn't expect this to happen, but I started to get even more scared. I'm like, pathway small. I have to kind of let my feet just not roll down the hill, but I've got to like kind of slide down to get there. I'm not wearing a harness, and all I've got is some tree trunks to hold on to along the way. So again, I'm riding high, and then now my fear's kicking me in the ass again. So this is where I had to remind myself of something. Confidence doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit. I actually realized that first rope climb, after I got it done, I was like generating and thinking about how awesome I was, because deep down I was really scared and I didn't want to feel that again. So it's like, let's get super fucking confident. Let's get super fucking confident. Let's go up these boulders and really like make a big deal about it. But what happened? Straight after that, when I had to go down, what happened to that fear? It got worse. It's like, oh, no. Nah. I started saying to him, I can't do this. We were there for about 5 minutes, and this guy who can't speak English, I can't really speak Spanish, he's going, come on, tranquilo, tranquilo, like this. And I had made my fear worse by revving myself up after that first rope climb. So this gets to the second thing. It was something I was taking my clients through recently. Actually, one client I'm thinking of in particular, it's funny how I was teaching it just before I did this hike. You're always going to get the high and the low. So if you guys follow DeMartini, John DeMartini, you'll know what I'm talking about here. And if you've read the Kabbalion, really cool book on like spiritual principles and stuff, you'll also know what I'm talking about. With emotions, we're always going to have the high, but if we have the high, we're going to go just as low, right? It's going to wait, drop, up, down, right? And what DeMartini and what the Kabbalion talks about is that the high doesn't necessarily mean anything and the low doesn't necessarily mean anything. They're just feelings. They're just emotions. But what actually matters? So that's what they say, and I'm going to give you like an extra thing. So if the highs here and the lows here, 1 minute I'm confident, 1 minute I'm fear, and I'm like focused on trying to keep myself high all the time and avoid the low, is that like a necessary indicator that I'm going to perform well? No, it's not, right? Because 1 minute, as I said, I'm confident after one rope climb. I mean, what gives me the right? I've never, like, I learned a little bit about it in Costa Rica. I don't have great technique. I've done it twice, and I'm revving myself up to try and get up this next one. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do well. It doesn't mean that my legs are stronger, or that the ground's going to be good, or that, the instructor's going to help me more because I'm confident. It doesn't actually mean anything. There's still a lot of that could go wrong. When I hit the low with the fear, just because I'm freaking out, it doesn't mean that I can't be strong physically to pull myself up when I'm terrified, right? It actually doesn't mean anything. That's just some emotional stuff. But if I lock in and I've done some training, I can still pull myself up the rocks. So the low and the high doesn't matter, but what does matter? The end result. So I remember this specific moment yesterday with this drop. I'm like, I am going to imagine what it's like sliding down this hill in complete control. I'm going to actually imagine what that feels like. I'm going to imagine myself doing it. And when I get to the bottom, there's a tree trunk, right? There's a tree trunk. So I grab the first one, and then I'll grab the last one to really lock on. I wish the guy got a video of this, but he didn't. So what I did was I went on my side. I put my most powerful leg, my left leg foot, like first, and I started going, like, sliding down like a goalkeeper. So there's a goalkeeping technique in soccer where someone shoots to the side, you got to like patter to the side. So I literally patted downhill, right? So I'm pulling every technique that I know out of the bag to get down this hill, and I'm grabbing onto these tree trunks. Get to the fucking bottom, swing, and lock on. And the instructor's like, oh, fuerte, fuerte. Mate, when I say I was terrified and my heart was in my fucking throat, that's what was happening. Because had I screwed up, I was going over. I was going over because there was a little turn there. So that's to remind myself, the high and the low doesn't mean anything. You've just got to focus on the actual result, which is get down the hill. Don't feel better about it. Okay, don't feel worse about it. Doesn't matter how you feel, just get down the hill. When we got there, okay, the rest of the climb, it taught me a great lesson. It's like, if I'm tired, like, I don't care if I'm tired, I don't care if I'm pissed off, if I'm scared, if I'm happy, I'm pushing through it. And I imagined myself sitting at the top of this mine face. And then half an hour later, after we got past that little hurdle, we got to the top. So I think we did it in about 2.5 hours, so a little faster. But like, getting to the top was so rewarding, because I'm looking back and I'm going, shit. Everything that I teach in business, to my entrepreneurial clients and stuff, this was the most extreme circumstance that I've ever had to apply. Like, I've applied these principles in sales. I've applied these principles with writing my book, with, creating the trips that I have over the last few years, and getting around throughout COVID. Like, I've applied these mindset principles, but in the Guatemalan mountains, facing my fear of heights that I've had ever since I was a little boy, it was like next level. So I'll leave you guys with like 3 things here, and there's one bonus. The third one's a bonus because I haven't really spoken about it. It's come to mind now. So the first thing is this. It's that, don't try and make your fear feel better. Don't fight your fear, right? Because quite often, like, again, on the mountain yesterday, had I focused on, I need to get this fear out of my body, I would have totally fucked up the rope technique, totally fucked it up, right? Because I'm focused on my emotions. It's like, I need to feel better about this. And right in front of me, I've got this obstacle that I need to get past in order to preserve my life and get to the top of the mountain, right? So it's either you're focused on how you feel or you're focused on getting what you want. You can't have both. Okay, that's one thing I took. Very extreme statement there. But yesterday, it's like, Jordan, if you keep trying to feel better about this and control your fear and make it go away, you are gonna die out here. You're gonna fall down this fucking thing or break your leg. It's not gonna be good. Okay, so that's the first lesson. The second lesson is just realize you're gonna have both. You're gonna go up and then you're gonna go down. You're gonna go up again. You're gonna go down, but it actually doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. You can suck when you're flying high, and you can be really strong when you're low. All that matters is the end result. What are you actually going for? And are you locked on in your mind? Do you have that in your mind? That is the most underrated and like skipped over principle in all of personal development. Like everyone's talking about shifting your beliefs and doing all the things that you necessarily need to feel better. But what they're not speaking about is getting what you want, which is just focus on it. Like Tony Robbins says, what are you focused on? If you're focused on what you want, you'll get it. Like whatever you're focused on, you'll get it. It's what my mentor, Willie McLeod, says. Whatever you're focused on, you'll create. So always remember that. If you're focused on your beliefs, if you're focused on your feelings, you're going to have more. Okay, you're going to have more to handle. You're going to have more to think through, more to feel through. But if you're just focused on the result, in spite of all that stuff, you're going to get there. All right. Now, the last thing that I'll give you, one of my, for those of you that work with me one-on-one, and some of you that aren't my clients right now, but you do the same work that I do in creative development, you'll know what I mean when I say choices, right? For those of you that don't know, with the creative development, the alchemy work that I do, there's this part of it called choices, which is like goals, but it's different. Okay. And choices, basically we make these choices. We have like a list, one for business, one for relationships, health, finances, like whatever's on your heart, you make a list of choices, right? Now, one of my health choices is to have fun and exciting physical activities out in nature. Like that's how I'm meant to keep fit. It's something that's come up for me throughout this work to do more of. Now, this third principle is going to be a bit out there woo-woo wise, but trust me on this. This has happened on so many occasions on this trip. I'm only speaking about this one incident so far, but I might share some others down the line and what have you. But when you make a choice to do something and it's true for you, you will create the scenarios, the connections, the people, the money that you need in order to fulfill that choice. So literally every day I say to myself, one of my choices is I choose the end result of fun and exciting physical activities surrounded by nature. I get to San Juan, I sit down for a long black coffee like I do every morning. I sit down, I order it, and I say, I want to hike to my nose. Within seconds, I've got a tour guide. I've got a tour guide who's ready to take me up there. Now, I want to share this. This principle is when it's true, okay, things come through fast. Things come through. When it's true, things come through. And I want to give that to you guys because I know that a lot of the work that I do with my clients, they have questions like, well, how do I know if I'm like in my truth? How do I know if I'm like, or if I'm in my bullshit? And it's like, man, if it's hard and there's all these barriers and there's all these problems that you have to solve, you're not. Okay, you're not in your truth, you're in your bullshit, right? Because that's what the ego wants you to do. It wants you to continue to resolve problems all the time. But if you're in your truth, you're going to attract shit like this and it's going to happen like that, right? I remember last year I put an intention out there. I want to go to Central America, do all this crazy stuff, adventure and have a wild trip. Before I knew it, I had the connections recommending places. I was introduced to locals in Mexico, in Costa Rica, in Guatemala. Um, I manifested more than enough money to do it, and I booked the flights. And it was like, holy shit, this happened quick. So when it's true, it comes through. I want you to remember that. And if you're in your truth and you're getting those opportunities, don't say no. Go with it. You don't know how it's going to work out. Like, I'm looking back now, I could have done the hour hike, but that wouldn't have been as fun. I know, crazy, right? Like, I'm saying it's fun now, but that wouldn't have been as fun and as expansive as this 3 hour hike was, because I really faced a lot of my bullshit. So when it's true, it comes through, and you want to make sure that you're in your truth. Okay, if you're not, you're going to be resolving problems and things about your life that have nothing to do with what you really want. So that was my wild day out in the mountains of Guatemala. Pretty epic. Lots of growth came from it. Lots of great experiences, memories. If you do come to Lake Atitlan, hit me up if it's one of your choices. If it's true for you to do hikes like that, let me know. I can introduce you to the tour guide that took me up there. You can experience the same hike. It was life-changing, man. Really, really cool stuff. And I also want to put this out there. If you guys are in a position right now where you're like, you know what, Jordan, I am wanting to dive deeper into this alchemy work for my business, for my creative projects. Like, I'm finding I'm a bit disconnected from what it is that I'm creating, or it's just slow and it's feeling heavy, or the results aren't coming in. Then hit me up. Hit me up. This is the work that I do now. It's predominantly on helping people access their heart, so their creations become much more them and authentic. Okay, because when it's much more you and when it's more authentic, things happen faster, with a lot more power and a lot more resonance. Like, you feel it, you remember it, and it pushes you outside your comfort zone. That's it from me. Hope you guys are well, and yeah, chat soon.